I'll share a little bit about Hawaiian Community Assets, just in case people don't know too much about us. But we were founded back in year 2000. We're celebrating our 25-year anniversary this year. And we were literally founded by two women who were sitting on the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's list for over 20 years. And they had the experience of finally getting kind of that letter in the mail. Hey, come down to Maui High School, come choose your lot. And they did everything that they needed to do. They got their paperwork in order. They went down to choose their lot. And within minutes, were told that they were not going to be receiving a home because their credit scores did not match what was going to be needed for the new development. And it literally was in the parking lot of that event where these women had a conversation about, we need to make sure that we have an organization out there that can explain credit, can explain the process of home ownership, that, because they really were just like, we had no idea. We didn't know what our credit scores was. We didn't know where it needed to be in order to qualify for a home. It's just all these things that come with home ownership that was not ready information for them. And that was how HCA was founded and why we're here today. We are Hawaii's largest HUD certified housing counseling organization. So we have housing counselors and main offices on 4 of the major islands. And then we have remote spaces over on our smaller islands. And then in addition to that, as part of our housing counseling piece, we do financial education workshops and homebuyer education workshops that are rooted in Native Hawaiian values and teachings. And so one of the things I talk about is I've worked in various organizations over the years, and I've been a part of creating new curriculum. And then, here at HCA, being able to work with Kuhua Vai, which was a curriculum created by the community. But this is my favorite curriculum. The curriculum that we use here at HCA is my favorite because of how we acknowledge why people are at where they're at. I've been in a lot of spaces where people are going through financial education. And if you're here from Hawaii, raised here in Hawaii, been here in Hawaii for a long time, money is not something we talk about, right? As Hawaiians, we don't talk about money. We shove that under the rug. Those are private conversations. And so getting into a space where you're talking about money is very, very uncomfortable. And what I love about this curriculum and just who we are as an organization is acknowledging that, is acknowledging, hey, how did we get to this place where talking about money is so uncomfortable? We talk about the history of colonization. We talk about why Hawaiians have this relationship with money that is so uncomfortable. And we talk about the differences between cultures. And that's how we kind of break down the barriers to open up communication so that people feel comfortable to talk about their current financial situations, because we're going to get nowhere if they're unwilling to talk to us, right? So those are just some of the key points that I love about HCA and what we do. I started as executive director about 3 years ago. And when I started, and actually in my interview, one of the questions they asked me was, what are we going to do about it? And I was like, wait, you want me to solve this housing crisis? I was like, you're definitely talking to the wrong person if you're looking for someone to solve this housing crisis, because this is not a one man, one woman deal. This is a Lahui deal, right? But what I did talk about was maybe some of the pukas that I saw of where HCA was at and what we could possibly grow into. At that point, HCA did amazing work in its housing counseling space to be able to get people housing ready. We could get a lot of people through the door in getting a pre-qualification letter, right? And over the years, we opened Hawaii Community Lending, which offered lending opportunities to people who could not qualify for debt consolidation loans and other type of financial products that they needed to get to home ownership. And so we had those things going for us, but we still were dealing with the issue of those pre-qualification letters that were coming in, that number that people could pre-qualify for, there was nothing on the inventory to serve. our population. And we kept dealing with that. Everyone kept asking us, well, how many people have you housed this year? And we were like, well, we have 1,000 who are pre-qualified, but we have 0 units in which they can move into, right? Their credit was fixed, their debt to income ratio, was great. It was the cost of living versus how much income they could actually access. That was that big gap. And so with that, I told the board in my interview, I said, I'd like to be involved in real estate investment under the HCA hat. I'd like to take, some of what you were talking about, Darryl, of people who are in investing, taking a look at what that group is doing and seeing if we can do that ourselves. But instead of taking those units for profit, we would be doing it for housing and affordable housing and seeing if there is something. I had a great opportunity to do some training in real estate investment and take some class, and my mind was blown. My mind was absolutely blown in how people look for funding to invest, the type of prices people were able to get houses for in off-market deals or the way that they negotiate. And honestly, I felt kind of gypped. I was like, how did we end up here in this place where there is a one way to buy a house? I just felt like there's this whole area of information that was being kept. And I thought, you know what, let's see if we can give this a try as a nonprofit organization to fit in the space as a real estate investor and see if we can pass on units that are under market price, affordable to our clients. In addition to that, just as an organization and our values, we really do believe in housing first. So we believe everyone deserves somewhere to live. And we know that it's a long road to be able to get to the point of homeownership for a lot of people, especially if you're under that 120% AMI. It is harder and harder to be able to fill that gap. And so one of the things we said is we have so much trust in our housing counselors and the amazing work that they do that we're not going to expect people to buy these units from us right off the bat. We're going to let them move in today. They're going to move in today and they're going to work with their housing counselors for the next 2 years to be able to purchase the very unit that they're sitting in. So we could start to close that gap of homeownership being this dream that's far down the road that's not tangible. Now you have people who are living in units, renting these units right now that they could live in forever if they follow the plan with their housing counselor. And so that's how Ua Hale Aʻela was kind of built.
Hawaiians have been placed into a system that doesn't work for us. Wages and income haven't kept up with the cost of housing.
I didn't think homeownership was a possibility.
I am a single mom, so I thought home ownership was very far-fetched.
At Hawaiian Community Assets, we're able to give people opportunities to get educated, set your future financial goals, and work with a specialist to increase credit or reduce debt, purchase a home, rent a home. But with the severe housing shortage that we have, we thought, why don't we start doing some real estate investment, capturing these homes, but putting them into the hands of our clients.
Ua Hale Aʻela is a lease with the option to purchase program for people that wouldn't have the opportunity outside of this to purchase the home on their own.
Hawaiian Community Assets will identify and purchase the property, and we allow a client family to move in and rent for up to 2 years at a predetermined purchase price. And we help them through assistance program for down payment as well as lower interest programs. That makes homeownership very attainable.
They give you the financial help. They work with you, work with your budget, and make sure you're set before moving you into home ownership.
It's almost like a puzzle, and you're looking for that one piece or two pieces that this ohana needs to bridge that gap.
So when we acquire a property, our goal is to go from acquisition to full renovation within 100 days. Once we identify a family for that property, I do a walkthrough with them to see what is left in the renovation and what can we customize to their choices and their needs. One of the great things is that after a family rents for 2 years and then purchases the property, that money goes right back into the program.
We chose to use kalo and its life cycle as a metaphor for the ongoing work within Ua Hale Aʻela. First, you plant this huli, and it's like that first home. So when that unit is sold, when that kalo is pulled, it goes right back into the ground. We're just replanting, we're continuing that cycle, and we're expanding the lo'i. The expansion allows for more of our community to be touched and housed and secure.
Having our own home creates a more solid ohana. I have hopes that being successful will lead to other families being able to attain a house.
Being able to walk through the door and be like, you know, this is my house. I live here. That was important.
It's not necessarily normal for nonprofits to get into real estate investment. Any investment is always going to be some risk. I think the risk to not try is definitely a more dangerous risk. We do plan on having this program around to sustain the needs of Hawaii for the long term.
Our units that are available to Hawaiian Community Assets clients first. So you probably haven't seen tons of marketing on it. It hasn't really been bought out to public. And majority of that reason is because we serve about 7,000 people a year. And so in our pipeline already, we have people who have that homeownership dream. And that's a lot of reasons why people are coming through our doors. So what that looks like for a client is when they're meeting with a housing counselor, they're attending a home buyer education workshop, they let their counselor know, hey, I'm really interested in getting involved in this program. And what the counselor does is they have an assessment and a conversation with the client to see where they're at on the readiness scale. And when we say we're giving people 2 years, what that means is that we understand that they're not ready today, but that they have the potential to be ready within the next 2 years. And some of the things we're looking at is consistency in meeting with your housing counselor. We have a lot of people who come in and go, I want to buy a house. And then they hear how much work it's going to take to buy a house and they're not ready, right? And that's okay, because we're all going to be in different places. But the people who are qualifying for this program are the ones who have been consistent meeting with their housing counselors, who have been honest about their situations and are willing to have those conversations. The ones that are doing the work in between their counseling sessions. Those are the ones that we usually are looking at, like, okay, these guys, they have a chance. We can give this a try. We do take a look at their credit scores, their income, and things like that. Like we're realist about the numbers, right? And we know what it's going to take for someone to qualify. But we're not looking at for the fact that they have a credit score now. We're looking at the fact that if their credit score does not meet what a lender may need, can that credit score be changed within a 2-year period? And so we do look at some of those things. So once a client has a conversation with their counselor about that, and the counselor deems like this one could be a good fit, they present their application to a committee, and that committee is run by Michelle, but it also includes other counselors on our staff. It includes also staff member from Hawaii Community Lending to come in and give us the lending perspective. And then it also includes someone from our executive team, one of our directors, and that's the kind of the minimum committee that goes in. But we take a look, so we can take a look at all different parts, right? The lending part, they understand where lenders are at in today's market and what needs to be seen. The counselors will take a look to say, does this person show consistency, and are they the type of client that will follow through? And then from the admin side, of course, we're looking at our numbers to make sure we're not losing money on the units, right? So that's the reality. This is a numbers game. And so they go through committee. If the committee approves them, then they get a letter or a call from Michelle to let them know, congratulations, you've been approved. Would you like to take a look at the unit that you were suggested for? And they go ahead and do a walkthrough and determine whether or not that's going to be a good unit for them to fit in. Once that happens, it's really just kind of their timeline, depending if they're currently renting or living with Ohana, or where we are in renovation sometimes. And we set a move-in date. not at that move-in date, they're signing a contract with HCA. Two contracts actually. One is their current lease, what their rental lease is going to be like. They do pay rent. We don't have any programs right now that's subsidizing rent, but we've had different situations where we do have some people who are coming in still on a county housing voucher, and others who are paying cash. But we set a lease for their rentals. And then they also sign a contract, which basically gives them the option to purchase this unit within the next 2 years. And in that, we also are setting a range of which the home could be sold to them for at that 2-year mark. And that range is for us at the back end is what is the lowest amount we could sell it to them without losing money on this. And then what is the higher end amount that we might have to put in there in case we have to extend time, in case we've had a holding period time, and just the reality of what our expenses are. So that gives them a clear understanding of where their goal is to be able to qualify. And then once they move in, they're working with their counselor, and every single situation is personalized. This is not kind of a cookie cutter, you must follow all of these specific things and check off the box. It is really a conversation that they're having with their counselors and what they need to do and what they need to get to the home buying piece. And yeah, they meet with their counselors up until it's time for them to qualify and buy. And it doesn't have to take 2 years. We have a few people closing soon that has been in their unit for just a few months. It just kind of depends on where they're at. But from the client view, that's kind of what that experience looks like. Once they purchase, there is a shared equity model that we're doing. It's a little bit complicated, but I'm going to try to explain this in the simplest version possible. But a lot of the times when that final closing price that they're purchasing it for is below market rate. And so what HCA is saying is the difference between what your home is appraised at the day that you buy and the price that we're actually selling it for. So for example, if a house is appraising at $300,000 and we're selling it to them for $250,000, that $50,000 is kept by HCA. We're going to kind of hold on to that so that we can try to keep this as an affordable opportunity in the future. But anything that is earned from the date that they close until the time that they choose to sell, that equity is earned by them, because we really do believe in order to be here in Hawaii, you need to be able to have access to capital. And so we want to support them in that growth. So that's kind of the shared equity model. We have deed restrictions that require the shared equity, as well as giving HCA the first opportunity to buy back, because our hope is that we can purchase it back at this point. It'd be $50,000 less than what is currently owed, and hopes that we can pass it on to the next client base. If we choose not to buy it, it does need to go to 120% or under AMI population. We do have a couple units that were specifically 80% and under as well, but that's kind of the highest that will really go is 120.